In the sports world, many athletes, if you're an athlete and you do really, really, really well, usually you excel in one sport. Now, there are exceptions to that. Ken was sharing part of his testimony yesterday at Ironman, and I don't know if you know, everybody knows that Ken is a PGA licensed golfer. So, golf, he knows golf. And if you talk to him for more than 30 seconds, you know that because he's very proud of his career with golf and has a lot of history and a lot of stories. But what you may not know is at the age of 14, he was actually being scouted by the Cincinnati Reds as a pitcher and was one of the fastest pitchers. As a matter of fact, because of the history of the Reds, was it Joe Nuxall? Yeah. Joe Nuxall was a pitcher with the Cincinnati Reds at the age of 15. The Cincinnati Reds wanted Ken to come on board at 14 and be a professional pitcher with the Cincinnati Reds. But they wouldn't bring him in at 14 because then that would be kind of a poo-pooed Joe Nuxall, who came in at 15, would have broken his record. But so there are athletes out there, myself. Okay, I'm on, baseball, golf, football. Yeah, I watch them all. Darts, pool, more that type of an athlete than other things. But most people they specialize in one sport. And if you do really, really well, if you stick with a sport and you're really gifted, you're really talented, and have a lot of those abilities, then you get inducted into what most sports call the Hall of Fame. Now, basketball is an example. If I mention some names, you know who these are, especially basketball fans, but Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Hall of Fame. Tiny Archibald, John Wooden, Jerry West, Clyde Drexler, Walt Frazier, Moses Malone, Bill Russell, Cheryl Miller, Oscar Robinson. These are guys that are giants among giants. They're giants in their own right. But these are excellent, outstanding basketball players that get put in the Hall of Fame, set aside from all the other professionals. They're special people. If you look at the entertainment world, they have the same type of thing. In the entertainment world, in Hollywood, they have a Walk of Fame out there, where if you're an exceptional actor, singer, theater, musician, those type of things, you get your square in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Some of those people, you know these names: Smokey Robinson, Halle Berry, Britney Spears, Kevin Costner, Anthony Hopkins, Brooke Shields, Glenn Close, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, Cindy Williams, Debbie Duke, John Singleton, Ted Turner, Hans Zimmer, Stephen Edwards, Journey, Nancy Sinatra, Mickey Rooney. The list goes on and on and on about these people that became famous actors, really good, but they excelled above everybody else, and they ended up in this Hall of Fame, even people posthumously, like Elizabeth Montgomery has just recently given a star on the Walk of Fame, Ethel Waters, Dr. Seuss. All these people excel above everyone else. Well, about 70 AD, there was another list of Hall of Famers. Now, these folks were very unique because, were not very unique because of their professional lifestyle or because of sports or acting or theater, that they could sing really well. These were individuals that we read and study about in Hebrews chapter 11. Now, not all of them came from exemplary backgrounds. They weren't particularly well educated or well trained or have a particular gift. But Hebrews 11 sets aside these folks as the heroes of our faith. They talk about a faith hall of famers that these people were talked about. So what made these people so unique? What set them apart from other people? What did they do that caused them to be named Hall of Famers? In the world of believers, what set them kind of above everybody else for some reason? Well, the answer is this. They kept the faith. It didn't matter what they were going through, what life was like for them at any particular time. They put their faith in God, and it never wavered. Mike and I were talking earlier about some of the health problems that he's gone through. And he says, there's been times for those brief moments when I first opened my eyes and I go like, Lord, where are you? You have those times. And Mike is strong in his faith and definitely a Hall of Famer in my book about faith. But there are these individuals that faith never wavers. Understand this. In your walk as a Christian, faith is so important. And this is our last in this series. We've done a 4-week series just talking about faith. But it is the common denominator that sets people above all others. Faith is the common denominator. And everyone that's alive, every person alive today, daily expresses faith in something. Every person, believer and non-believer alike. No one can live a single day without having faith of some sort in something in this physical world. Now, when you got up this morning, you went to the bathroom, you flipped that switch. The faith that you had was that the lights will come on. You had faith in something. When you got into your car this morning, most of us had faith that it'll start. I just believe that it'll start. I know that it'll start. I trust that vehicle. I have faith in my car. When you mail a letter, you have faith that put that letter in the mailbox. I have faith that it will end up in California at the address that I put on it within the next few months, weeks or days. I have faith that it'll happen. Think about this. You call your doctor, say, call my pharmacy, call Kroger's Pharmacy in Brandon Crossing and give them my prescription. You have faith when you pick that up that that's the right prescription. Does everybody check their prescription to make sure it's the right one? I never have. I have faith. I pick up that bottle, I don't know what it is, I put it in there, I swallow it, I never question anything. I have faith that it does. When you walked in this building, on some level you had faith in the people in the 1700s that built this building. You had faith that they did a good job, that they engineered the walls properly. You had faith in the workmanship. You had faith in the people in some place far away that built these block walls. You have faith in all of this stuff. So each of us, regardless of our background, our education, our social status, or anything else, any talents that you have, on some level, somehow express your faith every day. The difference between the faith that we exercise in our daily lives and our religious faith is the object of that faith. That's the big difference there. Again, everyone places their faith in something or in someone. Think about this. Muslims, are they people of faith? Absolutely. They have faith in the Quran. They have faith in Muhammad. They are people of faith. Think about humanists, people that are just, they believe that as a person, I am capable of anything I want to do. I can do anything. They're humanists. They have faith in themselves. Think about other religions that are out there. People have faith. They're people of faith that don't look like us. They don't act like us. They don't have the same faith as us. The difference is that none of their faiths can save. It's the wrong faith. Christianity is the right faith, in my opinion. Your faith is only as good as the object of your faith. If you put your faith in yourself, I think you've got a recipe for disaster there. Put your faith in Jesus Christ, I think you're headed for a recipe for success there. The Bible requires that we personally put our faith and trust in Jesus Christ alone. That's where our faith rests. If we put it in anything else, it's going to fail. You can have as much faith as you want in yourself. The Easter Bunny, your wife, your finances, whatever it is, you can put your faith in anything. But the Bible requires that we personally put our faith and our trust in Jesus Christ alone. I noticed that I don't know if this is coincidence or you did it by design, but Acts 4:12 was up on the screen earlier. It says, "Nor is salvation in any other place, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved." It's Jesus and Jesus alone. You can put your faith in other things, but to save, salvation comes only through that name. It's our faith in Jesus Christ that brings true salvation, and it's that same faith that pleases God. So we want that. How do you please God in your life? How do you do that? And I want to talk about that today, but before I get into it, let's talk about things that don't bring faith to God. Because there are a lot of misconceptions about faith, especially in this 21st century world, but it's happened ever since the beginning of time. Do you know that faith exists everywhere? We've talked about this before. If you go to the deepest, darkest recesses of a jungle in Africa, those people, primitive, never had civilized society, don't have computers on their phones, don't have internet, never talk to civilized people to have faith in something. It might be in the moon. It might be in a frog. But they have faith in something. If you go to the most remote islands of the South Pacific, those people have faith in something. But it's not the right faith. So I want to talk about misconceptions of faith first. The first misconception about faith is that faith is the ability to manipulate God. And that's probably the most prevalent thing going on in our society today. Is we read the Bible and we read something in a Bible that makes us uncomfortable or challenges us. Or, let's be honest, we just don't like it. I don't like the idea of it. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't satisfy me as a person. So what we do is we manipulate God to make us happy. So I know the Bible says, the Apostle Paul said, a man is to be a man of one woman. Well, I like women, so why shouldn't I have 6 or 7 of them? So I'm going to manipulate God to satisfy my own individual needs. It's called a health and wealth prosperity gospel, where you change the gospel around to satisfy yourself. And you see this approach throughout history. It happens a lot of times, and I'm not picking on any particular group of people, but it happens a lot of times with teens. Because teens are coming into an area where all of a sudden things are changing for them, where their bodies are changing, their voices are changing, their attitudes are changing, people are looking at them differently, and they're entering into adulthood. So they get around and they talk about things that make them appear or sound intelligent or wise or wisdom or intellectual. So they'll say things like, well, I'm a Christian, but let's be serious about this immaculate conception. Yeah, come on. That's not possible, is it? So I believe in Christianity. I am a Christian, but that particular part of it, I'm not going to accept that. So what they'll do is they'll espouse those thoughts to their friends. And the friends will sit there and go, boy, that sounds really intelligent. I mean, it is. Biologically, it would be impossible in flesh. I mean, biology can't produce a body without a husband and a wife. So I'm going to espouse that too. So people start manipulating God into what they want. The people that want to, there are people that want to, anything. I'm thinking of 1,000 things right now that I don't want recorded. But those are the things that we want. Make us happy. Feed our flesh. So we manipulate things to make us feel good. Second thing is a misconception about faith is that we don't have to, and I think we left off the don't, is have to adhere to, we don't have to adhere to a set of beliefs. That you can make your own doctrine. You can manipulate things however you want to. You really don't have to. You're in charge of this. You can make these decisions on your own. You don't need somebody else to tell you how to do this. You can make up your own stuff. 2 Timothy 1:12 says this, I know who I believe in. I know who I believe in. These are the facts. If your beliefs are not founded in the right person, it doesn't make any difference what you believe. The rest of it's going to fall apart. And the third misconception about faith is that faith is a blind leap into the darkness. That we're all just kind of making this up as we go along. And that's not the truth. To many believers, people believe that their faith is anti-science, that it doesn't line up with science. And it's just not true. And final misconception is simple devotion to whatever God you want to have devotion to, and you just follow that God. And that's where we get confused. We think, well, there's part about our faith that I don't like. You know that God destroyed every person on earth except 8 people? Destroyed, killed every person on earth. Anybody feel good about that? That's horrible. It happened. God did it. I don't stand in judgment of him. I don't question why he did what he did. But there are people that will hear that story and they'll form a theology around it. Where they'll say, okay, your God, destroyed all of mankind, all except for 8 people, and you believe in that God, you follow that God, you worship that God. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll make up my own God. And my God would never do that. First of all, this whole matriarchal thing about your God, he's a man. So I'm going to make up my God, it's going to be a woman. And my God is going to be 17 years old. I don't want to be tainted by time. I want to be fresh in their outlook. And this is what people literally do. They make up their own faith. Think about this. Right now, there's over 6 billion people on earth. Since the beginning of time, it's been estimated that there are 7 billion. I'm estimating wild numbers. So there's 13 billion people that are or have been on this earth. And we have people, a lot of times it happens because of this creative time of life with young people who are maybe 13 years old that go, I think those 13 billion people are wrong. I've got this figured out. My hamster is God. And they make up their own faith and turn their back on Christianity, which is at very least tracks its history back 6,000 years and has affected the lives of billions of people. And somehow in Nicholasville, Kentucky, or wherever, New York City or wherever it is, people sit back and go, I don't think that's right. I've got this figured out. I'm 14 years old. I've started to shave now. So I've got some maturity about me. I can say some things that are profound and exciting. So I'm going to start tearing down Christianity. And I'm going to start building up my belief. And my belief is that God is a Cocker Spaniel. I'm being ridiculous here. But this is what's happening. And I got to tell you, I didn't finish college. I got 3 years and a 2-year degree I brag about. You'll figure that out on their way home. But I'm not a stupid person. If you notice, I got up this morning. Those of you who I hugged, which is most of you, you probably noticed I've showered today. The stupid person probably couldn't do that. I did. I shaved, even though it's Sunday. I noticed my buttons on my shirt, all lined up. I got them perfectly. That helped a little bit with some of the tough stuff. I got all of these things that needed to be done. You know, I operated a motor vehicle coming in here, obeyed all the laws, except for maybe one. Sometimes I speed a little bit. If I was a stupid person, I probably would have failed at some of these basic things. So I'm a common person. Do you know that I don't believe, after being a Christian my whole life, I don't believe I could come up with a better faith. In my life, I have never sat back and thought, I'll bet that's all wrong. I'll bet the 13 billion people that have accompanied and are occupying this world with me, I'll bet I'm smarter than all of them. I'll bet I could invent something. But it happens every day. People invent their faith. They create their faith based on an emotion or something that they've heard. History is an ugly thing. We're going around right now taking down statues of generals that fought in the Civil War all over the country. We're trying to erase that. It happened, folks. It was an ugly thing. Does it change things? It's still the history. But we have people that manipulate their faith to try to make something that makes themselves feel good about themselves. Now, is everything in the Bible, do I understand? Is there anybody here that understands everything in the Bible? I need to spend some time with you, there is. Because there's so many things that I look at, I read, and I just shake my head, and I go like, man, I don't know why he did that. I don't understand why he did it. But my faith says, don't turn your back on it. Don't turn away from it. And as much as I thank God for the wisdom that he gave me, the little bit of intelligence, the common sense that I have, and common sense, think about that phrase for just a minute. Rare sense, not common. Rare sense. All those things have given me enough intelligence to go that I'm not smarter than every other member of a 13 billion person in society. I don't think I'm smarter than the 20 people that are in this room. There's got to be somebody brighter than me. So out of 13 billion people, is it possible that I could outthink all of them? That I'm the one person that's figured this out? Especially with limited experience. It happens all the time. It can be said, he is a person of deep faith about anybody. About people that give their life to Muhammad. About people that give their life to an Ayatollah. To people that give their life to Christianity. They all can be of deep faith. But the most important thing is, where do you place that faith? What is the object of your faith? That's what counts. And if you are smarter than 13 billion people, come meet me. I got questions. I need answers. But I don't think I've met that person yet. Hebrews chapter 11 shows what real biblical faith looks like. I'm going to break it down in about 5 different things. These are called marks of true faith. Mark of true faith is displayed in your behavior. Verse 1 through 3 says this: Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it elders obtained a good testimony. By faith we understand that the worlds were formed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which are invisible. True faith is constant obedience in God's word. I don't understand it. I don't understand everything that God did. I don't understand everything that he's got in place for my life, much less my family's life, my country's life, this particular era of mankind. I don't understand it. But my faith says, I put my faith in what? In myself, in a false God, or in the one true God. True faith is confident obedience in God's word in spite of circumstances or consequences. Now, if I'm going through a bad time, or I've got a bad call from my doctor, and the doctor says, Brad, this doesn't look good. I've heard those words before. You don't want to hear from your cardiologist that says, Brad, the test results are back, and it doesn't look good. Pause. 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 And finally I go, finish the sentence. What? Tell me what it is. Do I need to get to a hospital immediately? Where do you put your faith? In that doctor? In me, that I'm going to will this to happen? In my gopher at home, that I've decided is going to be God, and I'm going to put my faith in that, or the one true God? Faith is described in 2 different ways. It's the substance of things hoped for, and it's the evidence of things not seen. Who has seen the face of God? Not actually. Metaphorically, yes, but actually, no. The first word, substance, in the Greek literally means to stand under, to support. It's the substance, it's the support of our faith. Faith is the foundation that gives the believer the confidence to stand on his faith and his position. Verse can be translated, faith is the confidence of things hoped for. An example of this is a missionary by the name of Hudson Taylor. Hudson Taylor was the first missionary that went into China. When he went into China, he went in by ship. And very close to coming into the land, he came up against an island that was a cannibal island. And they lost their wind. In the shipping business, when you go by sails, you lose your wind. It means your sails go flat. You can't move. Now you become a victim of the current. As the current comes up, it moves the ship wherever the current is going. You can't manipulate it by the wind. So they came very close to the shore, to this cannibal island, lost their air, hit what they call in the shipping business a calm, and they started drifting toward the shore, where the cannibals are waiting for Domino's to deliver their pizza at such and such time. Food is coming in. Well, the captain of the ship went to this man, Mr. Taylor, and asked him to pray for the help of God. And he says, I will, provided that you set your sails to catch the wind. Set your sails right now. Get ready to catch the wind. Well, the captain's looking at his crew, and he's going like, I can't set my sails. There's no wind. The crew will think I'm nuts. I can't put my faith in what you tell me. I'll be embarrassed by doing that. So he at first refused to do that. Taylor said, I will not pray for this vessel. I won't do it unless you prepare your sails. So he did. He broke down. He acquiesced, and he set the sails. While he was praying, the captain was praying, there was a knock at his stateroom door. He said, "Who is that?" The captain said, he says, "I need to know if you're still praying for that wind." And he says, "Yes, I am." And he says, "Well, you better stop because we have all the wind that we need." His faith was in God, that God would provide the wind. He didn't need anything else. Now, the second word that describes faith is translated as evidence or conviction. This inward conviction enables a believer to believe things that are not yet seen, that God will perform the things that he has promised. Has God ever lied? Ever? Has anybody ever recorded a time in the Bible, in the Scripture, over 6,000 years? Has anybody ever recorded anything that says God lied? It's not in his nature to lie. There's another captain, sea captain, illustrates this point. This is a story about a captain of a ship in which George Mueller of Bristol was traveling. Now, George Mueller was a person who had several children's homes. Now, these are for homeless children, and he had several of them. Now, the unique thing about his particular mission that he had is he had never asked for money, ever. Over the period of his ministry with these homeless children, he had received over £1 million in support, financial support for these children's missions, and he never advertised once. He never asked once. He never went on TV, if there was a TV then, and said, "Please send your tax-deductible dollars to this address, and we'll be able to support these children." Throughout his entire ministry, over £1 million had mysteriously shown up by random donors around the world supporting his mission. During his time, he'd received more than £1 million from the Lord, he said, without advertising. Every penny had come as an answered prayer. He had asked for it, believing that God would do it, and God did it. The story goes this way. He said, "We had George Mueller of Bristol aboard," said the captain. He said, "I'd been on the bridge for 24 hours and never left it. George Mueller came up to me and said, 'Captain, I have come to tell you that I must be in Quebec on Saturday afternoon.' The captain said, 'That's impossible. So I can't do that. I can't get you there that fast.' He said, 'Very well. If your ship can't take me there, God will find another way. But I have to be there. I have never broken an engagement in 57 years of speaking. So I'm going to go down to the chart room and I'm going to start to pray about this, and I'm going to pray earnestly.' He said, the captain says, 'I looked at this man and I thought, what kind of lunatic is this guy? I can't make this ship move faster than it is. I can't do it. He has to be crazy.' He said, 'Mr. Mueller, do you know how dense that fog is outside, how dangerous it is to move this ship?' And he says, 'No.' He says, my eyes are not even looking at fog. What my focus is on the God who is involved in every circumstance of my life. That's what I'm focused on, not on the fog that's out there. God made the fog. He can destroy the fog. I'm focused on God.' So he knelt down and he began to pray, one of the simplest prayers there was. And when he'd finished, the captain says, I was going to pray with him, but Mr. Mueller put his hand out on his shoulder and kind of smiled and said, 'Please don't pray.' He said, 'You're not a believer. You don't really believe this. You've already told me it's impossible. I believe that it is possible, and I've already asked. You don't need to.' He said, I looked at him, George Mueller, and said, 'Captain, I have known the Lord for 57 years, and there's never been one single day that I failed to have an audience with the king. Get up, Captain, go open the door, and you'll find that the fog is gone.' Captain went up, opened the door, and the fog had completely disappeared. That's faith. That's a conviction for a faith that can't be broken. Another mark of true faith is displayed in your worship. Your worship in faith is watched by God. When we're here this morning and we listen to a couple of songs, I got to tell you, Pat's not in the room, I can talk about this. First worship song, I didn't think I'd heard that first. Didn't quite get it. Didn't follow it along very well. It just kind of felt like I was disconnected from it. Maybe it was a new experience for me. But I was here to worship in faith. So I believed that God wanted me here. I believe that God wants me to worship him in faith. So I surrendered to that. By the time the song was over, I knew every word to it. I fell right into it. Faith. God watches that faith. Faith in many different ways. Faith in your giving, in your sharing, in your personal testimony. All those things God watches. Your faith in worship is a lifelong testimony that says, through it, even though he is dead, he still speaks. And I follow that. You may build great cathedrals, large and small. You may build skyscrapers, grand and tall. You may conquer all the failures of your past, but only what you do for him will last. Third mark of true faith is demonstrated in your walk. You look at the life of Enoch. It teaches us 3 important lessons about our walk with him. First, your walk should be progressive. In your Christian walk, if you're stuck somewhere, you need to move out of that. You need to do something a little different. You need to change your thinking, your studying, your prayer life, or something. Never stay where you're at in your walk. Never be in neutral. Never allow yourself to go backwards. If you feel like that, and we have all felt like that, where there's a time where all of a sudden we're just kind of stagnant where we're at, you need to do something different. You need to put on more worship music. You need to crank it up a little bit louder. You maybe need to go to a Wednesday night service somewhere. You need to connect with serving. Your faith and your worship will never be more profound when you're serving someone else than anything else. So you need to do something different. But it should be progressive at all times. And your walk should be life-changing. If you look at Enoch, Enoch was taken up into heaven. He avoided death because of his faith. And there's a lot of other things about that. Number 3, your walk should always be pleasing to God. Never contrary to God. And that the Scriptures very clearly says you are saved by faith alone. The Scriptures very clearly say that there's only one way to the Father, and that's by Jesus Christ. Now let's say you change that and you make it something else. I decide that I'm going to be responsible for my faith. There's not a God out there that's controlling things. Is that going to glorify God and make him happy? Absolutely not. So your faith has to be pleasing to God. And then number 4, mark of true faith is produced in your work. What's your fruit? What are you doing? Text gives us some helpful hints about principles to ensure that our faith is at work and evident in our life. If it's not evident in your life, there's something going on. Sometimes that's tough. Sometimes you're going through health problems. Mike, you've been facing it. Has every day been a joy through that? Absolutely not. There's been times where you've had to kind of feel like you're crawling out of bed to get going. Ken, you struggle with pain a lot in the abdomen. Sometimes he goes to the doctors and he says, "What is that?" The doctors go, "I don't know." And Ken goes home and deals with that. It happens every day. Some of us are going through relationship issues that are hard. They bring questions to us. You got to do your best. To move with godly fear means to act courageously, to beware, to fear, to have reverence, to stand in awe. All of these things. This is what faith is all about. What all of this says to us is whatever you do for God, do the best you can. But make sure God is the focus. If God stops being the focus of whatever you're going through, you're headed for disaster. I tell you that because I love you. But you're headed for disaster. Anytime you put your physical needs ahead of God, your financial needs ahead of God, your personal desires of your flesh ahead of God, you're headed for disaster. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for this day. I thank you for the wisdom that you bring through lessons about our faith. And for, Father, for those of us who struggle from time to time, we thank you for your forgiveness. Thank you for our 3rd, 4th, 50th, 60th, 70th chance, our 90th opportunity to say, "Forgive me, Lord. Heal me. Turn me around from my ways that I'm headed." Thank you for that. Father, this is my flock. This is your flock. But this is the flock that you've given me. So I pray for them, each one of them, wherever they're at, wherever they're going through, I pray for them. But all those others out there that have been misled, who have been deceived by fast-talking people that say, You don't have to put your faith in that God. In the book of Hezekiah, chapter 37, God smited a person. Don't believe that stuff. Turn from it. Father, I pray for those people that are hearing those lies, that you would just block them from them, protect them from them. For those people who think that they're smarter than the 13 billion people that have walked this earth, I pray for wisdom from them. I pray for their awakening. I pray that there are no people around them that say, boy, that really sounds cool. You're a really neat person. What a great way of thinking. I pray that they will have those people around them. I pray that there are people that will say, that's not the truth. Where are you getting these ideas? I pray for truth and wisdom among all people, believers and non-believers alike. I thank you for that, Father. We love you, and it's in Jesus' name we pray.
Ever feel left out? Ever feel like you just don't understand? Or that nobody understands you? You ever feel like nobody cares? Come climb the mountain. It's nothing like you've ever seen. Our philosophy is simple. Love God, love people. The Mountain Community and Christian Learning Center. It's faith, it's family, and it's friends. Stroll in, grab a donut, some coffee, and grab a seat. Enjoy the company of a warm, welcoming family of Christ followers as we encourage, support, and worship together. No Sunday's best here. Simply come as you are. Come as your own Father would have you. On Sundays, 9 a.m. is Happy Hour Fellowship with a message from Pastor Brad Allred or a guest speaker starting at 10. If you're looking for a church family or simply looking for a change, stop by and visit. We'd love to have you.